Welcome back to Archean, episode 7 of the Cargo Challenge. And in the previous episode, I spent time working on my submarine / air sled. Did some testing of forward, backward, left, and right commands. And now we're going to attempt to add some code to permit rolling and pitching by leveraging the props and the pivot units. So right now I'm just going ahead and do some construction so we keep that going while we're messing around with the code here. So looking at a bunch of stuff I need. And back into the water. Running out of data cables, so I make some more of those. Now on the data cables, you can't actually combine the spools, and so you end up with these little spools. One, you just toss it in the trash can. They're not very really expensive, or you can just throw it on the ground, and when you save and reload the game, it'll be gone. So here I am expanding out my little debug on console, which I haven't renamed yet. Maybe call it debug on monitor. And what I'm adding is the angles of the pivots that I have the props attached to. So we'll just kind of display that information, although it should be kind of obvious if I look at them, how they're positioned. So pivots have a range of between -1 and 1, where -1, 0, and 1 are all the same position. So effectively, 1 represents 360 degrees. If you're looking at the pivot facing the ports, and say it's standing up, then negative goes to the right or clockwise, and positive goes counterclockwise. And thus 0.5 is facing directly behind you. 0.25 is 90 degrees, and 0.125 is 45 degrees. So effectively, you want to convert degrees, you just take the pivot value or 360 divided by the pivot value, and you have the number of degrees. So here I'm just going ahead and render those values, doing it the old manual way. And this is the first time I attempted to use a pivot for positioning a prop, or maybe I've actually used a pivot for anything. I really haven't done anything with pivots before. It gives me a reason to learn more about them and how to apply them. Now pivots have two modes. There's a servo mode and a velocity mode. So in servo mode, you just tell it, which is the default, you just give it a value and it will move to that position. And if you give it, and stop. So if I, sit at the 0.25, then it will turn to the counterclockwise 90 degrees. Now in velocity mode, you just tell it how fast to spin. And that's a sticky setting. So if I tell it 0.1, then it'll do, I guess, 1/10 of a rotation, or 1 rotation per 10 seconds. Or 1/10 of a rotation in 1 second. And that's continuous, so it'll keep spinning around. You don't have to keep setting it, so you set a constant movement. And that's useful for maybe you're just scanning. I think a lot more scanners do something like that. They just set it to a constant velocity and let it spin around. And in every tick, they grab the position of it and compute from there. But effectively, we can spin it 360, and it's just how you want to map it, the values. So what I'm doing is building out the initial code that will set the pivot of the various props. And initialize this. So we'll set those all to each their own individual pitch value. And initially, I just have a fixed value, each one. Now, I don't actually want to drive. Currently, I'm not driving the pitch of the pivots 360. I just want to pivot a little bit up or a little bit down. And that's why I, on the pitch control, I divide by 10. I don't want to moderate that value. So the way they're positioned actually works out pretty well. I don't need an offset because of the location of the control and how I place the prop. So basically, the prop is from the neutral position is at 0. So if I want to bring them up, I just, I forget if I use negative or positive. I'll just play around those numbers, which way they go. Let's see, to go up should be positive and going down should be negative. Now I do need to offset the pitch value from the left and right side by 180 because the pivots are pointing or 180 off each other. So basically, once I decide which way I think should be up and which way down, then I'll just negative the other side. So for now, we'll just give them all the same value. And that's why I have individual values for pitch, so I can control whether the craft itself will do a roll or a pitch in general. So here I'm looking at the settings. And I'm just verifying I need the negative. I thought I do. So here we are. I started off with no offset, and it's okay. Now they're all facing the same way. So effectively, with a positive number, the props will point a little downward, and with a negative, they'll point upward. Okay, so we're playing with that, although that's not too useful. So the thought process, now they're opposites. So playing around with the value. So the thought process is that if I want to roll, on one side they would go up and one side they go down. And effectively, you still move in a forward direction, but that would cause it to roll one way or the other. And then if you want the pitch to craft down, you would have the ones in the front point down and the ones in the back point upward. And of course, the pitch up, you would bring the front ones up and the ones in the back down. So that should give me, a way to maneuver the craft around. Now, I said this is a voiceover of the previous recording, and what I discovered And what you'll see down the road is that that was not an effective strategy for controlling a submarine. But that's what we're here for, to figure this out. Okay, so here's I figured I put a tilt sensor so I can figure out how I'm tilted, because you get in the water, if you don't have a reference point, you really don't have any clue of up and down, left and right, which is... Now, I've done a lot of scuba diving in the past, and I was told that you can get disorientated under the water and not know way, which is up and down. I've never experienced that. Even in zero viz, I always knew which way was up. But probably because I had a lot of equipment on, so. And a dry suit. And a dry suit, if you're inverted, you'll know in a dry suit if you're in the wrong position, because you'll feel the air moving around inside your suit. Maybe that's a good indication of orientation. All right, so so now we're going to grab the from the tilt sensor. So we have X. So X is left and right, so effectively that's our roll, and then Z goes back and straight forward and back, and that'll be our pitch. As stated before, this is the first time I have attempted to build a submarine for Archean, or probably any game actually. I think version 2 would be a lot different. And the only reason I needed it, reason Submarine is to get gold to make a automated crafting. So 2 things I learned from this experiment is I can't build a sub worth a darn, and to find gold, you're going to have an ore scanner. You will not just find it going out in the ocean, go somewhere deep and hope for the best. You've got to have an ore scanner. So I guess you can learn from my mistakes here. Although the process of working out and figuring things out and connecting things should be a useful learning experience, I hope, for people. And you probably notice I do not use the block version of the UI. I do everything from code because I'm old. All right, back to our air sled, and off we go. Here I am thinking I had to put wheels on it, and it worked out a lot better. I thought, okay. So another problem I discovered a lot of problems with this, which is interesting. So I don't actually change the configuration of the props. So you see my steering is a little too much. And I had the steering dampened, and then I couldn't turn on land, and I went ahead and cranked it up so I could turn on land, which is too much for the water. So let's go back and crank that down a little bit. So these props are set up by default, and thus they seem to work okay, a little bit on land and a little bit on water. And I didn't tune them for one way or the other, because it sort of works. So I figured let's start with the baseline of the default. So the weird thing is because the way this sub sort of floats close to the surface, quote unquote, well, it's not really called a sub. We'll call it a sub. It's underwater now. Is that if I'm on the surface, see here I have no clue where I'm at. I don't know which way I'm going. I don't know how, at the tilt, but that's like, okay, that's not very useful. I should convert it to percentage, degrees, and all this. So those props, if I'm close to the surface and one prop is in the water and the other prop is in the air, I think they do a lot better underwater, and it'll spin the sub around. It'll spin, it's called a craft. our vehicle, is spin the vehicle around because one is digging in and one is digging out. And so at some point I'll like maybe make a boat out of it and make it float, but then if one slightly digs into the water and then it spins around crazy wise. And okay, so we got a sub and we started going, and when I'm looking for like, want to go down deep. I'm still on the impression if I just kind of go deep, I'll just find gold like everywhere. And here, and then the other prop should be going in reverse. And so if turn it left and right, I have the right side you see is being powered, but the left side is not inverting. And here I am trying to pitch it down, and that works poorly. Now I did think about putting an up-down function where the props would face straight up and then go up, and of course I can invert the props. I can have them face straight up and then just change the direction the props go up and down. So I have literally an elevator up and down type thing. So now I'm looking at, well, maybe make this thing heavier. So there's a concrete block. Here's another lesson I learned. If I have a concrete block, if I have selected concrete, but I didn't hold down the shift to copy, copies what's already there. It doesn't copy the structure using the currently selected block type. So since the bottom is composite, I just put more composite on the bottom when I'm thinking I was going to put concrete on the bottom. So now we're slowly going up. Okay, so this is weird. Why is it floating when I added concrete? And now it's supposed to be there's some issues with weights of objects. And I go, well, but I didn't think concrete floated. And I'm going to speed this section up because I'm not going to torture you with my inability to control something underwater here. Okay, so this is 5x right now. I'm on the surface, I'm floating, going, why am I floating? And then that's when I'm looking at this and go, oh, that's composite. And then I realize, oh, when I do the shift copy, and so we gotta get some concrete on it. All right, so we're back in it. So now we starts going down. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I can just hit the bottom of the ocean with the nose and kind of like make it like a underwater sled type thing, kind of push it down, 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 down. Now it's dark. Now I have no clue where I'm at. And I'm getting out, looking around. And what I'm doing, I get out and I look at my mining drill and see, oh, do I have gold here? Do I have gold here? Do I have gold here? Yeah, right. And then I'm going to say, oh, let's put some more concrete, or change the concrete, or put some more concrete, or now I decided, okay, this point I said, okay, this ain't a sub. It's not going to be a sub. Forget it. We're not going to build a sub. Let's make it a boat again, and let's get back to shore. So I took all my composites I had in my backpack, and I stuck it everywhere so we float. Now we're sort of an airboat. See, anytime I try and make a turn and one of those props dig in the water, it just spins. So the prop should be, if I want an airboat, they should be up higher. And then I try to dip down, and yeah, it's just crazy stuff going on here. And if I wait, I can float, but I kind of ram it up on certain. Now that's pretty cool. Whoa, 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 whoa. How's that? Hey. I almost hit my cargo units too, which would be bad. If I hit them hard enough to increase the G impact to them. Okay, so we're back to air sled. Okay, now we're back on the ground, so I need to crank up my turning power. Okay, so now we can turn. Now we don't want to hit the cargo. If I put those props up higher and made them larger, I bet it'd go pretty well as a sled. Not sure how well I'll do in the mountains though. So forget wheels, just use. So I guess if you want a boat that operates both on the land and shore, you can just use props. Use the propellers above the surface as an airboat type thing. All right, so here I am maneuvering around on my sled. All right, so at this point I go, okay, this is not going to work, and I don't want to spend like 15 episodes trying to figure out how to build a sub when I really don't. Not just build a sub, but build an ore scanner and all that stuff. So I said, well, I want to make progress on the challenge itself, not make a 20-part video on how to build a sub, which would be an interesting set of videos. So what I figure I'm going to do now is just get it close to the base, and I'm just going to tear the whole thing apart and build a catamaran. I'm going to build a boat. And the reason for building a catamaran is that I can build a big catamaran, put wheels on it, maneuver it so the one of those cargo units are between the pontoons, and then attach to it using a docking port, lift it up, then take the catamaran, which had wheels on it, drive it down, although I might be able to drive it using just the fans. But anyway, I put wheels on it and then drive it down into the water. Once I hit the water, then I can use propellers in the water, motor it 300 kilometers away, find some shore, drive up on the shore, drop off the cargo, and boom, we've completed the challenge. And how long that ever takes, but at least by sea it'll be completed. So I stripped the batteries. I'm stripping the batteries out of the vehicle, and I'm gonna set them up here so I can start charging those up, because I'm disassembling the vehicle. So now when you disassemble, you have to take the wiring out. If you want to save the wiring and get it back, you have to take apart the wire first. If you remove a component which has wires attached to it, the wires are gone. Now the wiring is pretty cheap to make, so it's really not a big deal. You could just argue it's not worth wasting your time, because you can always make another spool of wire for like almost nothing. That one's like fully charged for some reason. I was almost, because I know one battery was I'm just using it to drive the computer, and so it used and the pivot, so it used very little power. And I'm curious if there's a rounding thing, because I use so little power, it just kind of rounded up to, you don't want to charge that one up because it's already charged. So we had extra ports here. We're just going to plug these in, and we'll charge these off the main base while we're mucking around with our catamaran. Okay, I mean, we're going to make a lot more junk now too. Hopefully the goal here will overlap building stuff with construction. And we need a lot more composites. We need a lot of plastics. So here I am stripping all the wiring out. Yeah, I think in the future I'm just going to take the components off, and maybe the high power voltage stuff, but everything else not even bother doing this part. Just rip everything out and be done with it, because it's been far more efficient just to make another spool. Another lesson for the future. So in a future sub, I think what I need is more props. So, well, I need more props. So definitely what I need is, for example, have a set props, like one in the front, like ones in the front face up and down, and the ones on the side face up and down. So you have lots of props. So in other words, stop wasting time spinning them. The advantage of spinning them is you save cost on all those props. But you don't need the pivots, you don't have the complexity. Okay, so you put props everywhere. So now you can control all, give it a 3-axis movement without any pivots. That makes things simpler. Because now you can like rotate and pitch at the same time without trying to do weird stuff. And then I don't have to like go forward while pitching down or pitching up. I can just independently pitch up and down at a standstill. Then what you need is your tilt sensors and code to automatically keep the craft level by default. So if you're not adding any input, it will automatically maintain a level position. I think that would make things easier, so you don't have to worry about like how you're orientated. Definitely put lights on it so you can see down there. Getting a lot of stuff in here. I'm gonna dump the extra silicon, which I don't need right now. It does seem you can build quite a bit with minimal mining, and I assume it's still, they can obviously tune this a little bit and make things either mining a little more, less productive, or have things cost a bit more. It's gonna just need enough to one stack of each. Now if I run out, I can just grab more. Now, if you're playing in creative mode, you'll find your crafting inventory is backpack inventory is much larger than in adventure mode. So in adventure mode, you only have like 5 rows here, and then I think in creative it's like double or more of that with a scrolling bar. Although honestly, in creative, there's no real reason for it to be that big anyway. Sorry, take that back. Yes, there is a reason to be that big, and the reason is because in creative mode you have all the items. So all the items, you don't have to craft anything. It's just all the items are sitting in your backpack. You just pick one out and use it, and thus it's larger and scrollable. And one little trick I didn't realize in creative mode, there's a little red button, and when you open up your inventory, it says reset. And I sort of ignore that. And so I was wondering, what if you run out of something? And what reset does is reset the inventory and back to the default of starting up. So if you used up all 50 wheels, you just hit reset and you get 50 new wheels. And so I rely on that a lot. So if you get things, it cleans up your inventory and your toolbar and all that. Now, obviously, you don't see it here because this is adventure mode. And that's one way to kind of know which mode you're in. Look at your backpack. If you see reset, you're in creative mode. If you don't see backpack, you're in adventure mode. Got a lot of plastic here. We need a lot of plastic. We go through a lot of plastic. That's and that requires hydrogen and oxygen. And thus, you've got to be close to water and make a lot of plastic, or have access to water. Okay, so let's build something. I'm going to speed up this construction sequence since it's kind of not the most exciting thing in the world. All right, so the game plan here is, initially I put it in the wrong place, but the game plan is I'll drop down one frame, put a concrete base on it. And then this thing gets in the way here. So here I'm sort of planning something out. And, here's the 2 pontoons, but, the symmetry's in the way. Symmetry's not set up right. All right, so let's move it over here. We'll put concrete there, turn symmetry on, wrong one. I need to have the thing going, put the right one on. Okay, so now we have symmetry going. Good. Now I'm like, okay, here's the pontoons, and we'll remove the middle stuff. I go, no, this is not wrong. We'll put it up here. Right? What's going to happen when I do this? Yep, it falls over. Okay, crap. let's put a concrete base, and then we'll drop on here, little thing, and then we're going to put on our anchor and a toggle switch and a wire, and we're going to anchor the sucker down to the ground. Okay. And the reason for that way, if I can build under the ship. And so what I'm doing here is I'm building the 2 pontoon. I probably should have made them a little deeper, but definitely a little bit higher than it is, but so be it. I'm not pulling that much weight around. So what I'm doing, I'm building a box, okay, building a big box. I'm going to play around the box, and then I'm going to enclose the box. So and then once it's all enclosed, the trick part is I'm going to take a volume sensor or volume thing, and I'll put the volume sensor or whatever it is inside the space. Here I'm playing around with the, didn't have to be that perfect. I just want the top pieces all be, consistent 3-meter squares. All right, so now we have it. So now we have our volume thing, whatever that's called. And we're going to use the drone mode. Drone mode is cool because you go inside of things. And I'm going to pop this sensor right in the middle. Requires no power, which is nice. Put it in the center. And I'm going to hit scan with the F key. Now this is airtight, which means when it hits the water, this is all full of air. And the water won't get in here. If there's no top, even if the sides are high enough, water will get in currently. So by doing this, the drone is really slow. You can hit the shift key to make it a little faster, but man, it's slow. It really doesn't matter where I put this. Stick it anywhere. Okay, so it's up. I don't think up really matters. Okay, so this is airtight. So I have 2 airtight rectangles as a pontoon for my catamaran. But now I need to build a little in the middle, well, not middle, need to build a platform in the middle, and raise that platform up, because that platform, what I need to do is put this thing between the cargo unit, have a platform with a docking port on it, and kind of lower it down, connect to the end of the bath, connect to the cargo, lift it up, and then I can kind of, once it's lifted up, then I can drive into the water and put props and all the other stuff on here and drive it. We are back in the water. So we're about the end of this episode. Obviously, we're not going to finish the quote-unquote catamaran in this episode. But you see what direction I'm going. So I think this is going to be more straightforward and nothing weird like submarines. We'll just build a catamaran, put wheels on, drive it, pick up the cargo unit, lift it up, drive back on the water, use normal props that are deep in the water and steering, nothing fancy, and just motor 300 kilometers, find some land, and we can call the part 1 of this cargo challenge completed. All right, so that's about the end. So till next time, see ya.